Welcome to Whispering Loudly, the award-winning Workshop Whisperer podcast, as featured by Apple, with Rachael Evans, the #1 automotive business coach in the aftermarket, thanks to titanium sponsor Mechanic Desk and gold sponsor Podium.
Whispering Loudly is the Workshop Whisperer podcast. Hi, I'm producer Mel, and Rachel's on the coffees again.
Yeah, I think our voices are amplified, Mel, when we've had a bit of caffeine.
You were so good for so long and used to order that decaf. And I would just go...
It's only when I come to the podcast station, Mel.
Go, what in God's name? You know what's really interesting? That you talk about the 4-day work week, and I see you trying to implement it yourself, which is, or succeeding in it, which is super cool, right? Mm. When you do things like that, you get a little bit more free time, and you are doing tennis lessons.
I am doing tennis lessons. I hired a tennis coach a couple of months ago.
So you two can have hobbies like this if you get into Rachel's 4-day work week.
Well, I made a deal with myself that this year I would have some hobbies outside of being in business.
Work, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I used to play tennis as a kid.
Yeah.
And my husband is very good at sports. On the occasion that we played tennis, I was annihilated. And
that wouldn't go down well with you, I think.
Oh, I had a smile on my face. It was fun. But I definitely thought, well, I used to love playing tennis. Yeah. And if I hired a coach, then maybe I could be a little more competitive the next time my husband and I take the court.
That's awesome. And you coach a lot of people at the Workshop Whisperer. How do you go as a student?
I'm an exceptional student.
Are you? Well,
give me the orders and the prescription and the instructions, and I will get to work.
Well, coming up next, we want you to get to work because Rachael is going to take the boss chair with JFDI.
JFDI. With the Workshop Whisperer, Rachael Evans, a coaching masterclass for the brave.
JFDI. Today's episode is Get the Right Accountant for Your Auto Repair Shop. Oh, a lot of repair shop owners, well, this is just what I understand from you having 15 seasons of this podcast, is that they don't like to do admin.
I think before we start talking about that, hearing that we've done 15 seasons of the podcast, Mel, you're probably as qualified to give advice now in this space as what I am.
That is definitely not true. You are the #1 automotive business coach in Australia and New Zealand.
Yes.
I'm a radio personality. I'm not good at paperwork either.
Yeah. No, look, it's not a strong suit, but it's definitely something that we help our clients to embrace, to get their heads into, so that they understand the importance of the administrative and financial side of their business. Because if they don't, then they're going to abdicate responsibility for those things to people that aren't always going to have their best interest at heart. And on this particular topic, accounting is a massive part of the success of an auto repair shop. So at the Workshop Whisperer, we teach about having a workshop success team, and that could be 4 or 5 other experts outside the business that are supporting you with their knowledge and expertise so that you can achieve your goals faster. And an accountant is one of those 4 or 5 experts that you need, amongst potentially a bookkeeper, a financial planner, a business coach, of course, and
someone to do your nails, someone to brush your hair. That's a lot of people in a financial team. Absolutely. Most people just have their partner doing the books probably, or someone.
In a lot of cases, and they don't enjoy it. And,
true.
That means that things get delayed and your reconciling's not up to date, and therefore you can't have an accurate picture of where you're at financially whenever you want to look at it. So it's one of the things that we actually look to delegate as quickly as it's feasible to do so, because the person doing it either doesn't enjoy it, like myself when I had my workshop. I understood. I went to TAFE and did Certificate 4 in bookkeeping.
Are you serious,
yes,
Rachel?
Absolutely. I told you I'm a great student.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe you.
Just so I would understand.
You always want to do everything well, so I do believe you, yeah.
But I hate it. It sucks the life out of me to do that, but other people love it. So we should never fear hiring in someone that's good at it. And where bookkeeping is concerned, we might hire someone to do 2 or 3 hours a week for us, and maybe we pay them $150 to do that. But that frees us up to go and do other money-making activities for our business, or it gives us free time.
And then you have visibility over what's going on in your business.
Definitely.
Which you talk about. You know, you've talked about earlier on in the podcast and quite a few times that things like you should have 6 months worth of saving of business expenses in your account and all this sort of stuff. How do you even know without having the visibility across your account?
That's right. You're just flying blind and you're making business decisions that are completely uninformed. And unfortunately, we see so many auto repair shop owners in financial struggle because they guess that they can afford to go and buy 2 new cars on a lease, and they guess that they can afford to pay their foreman $100,000 a year. And worst of all, they rip money out of the business for themselves without understanding the financial repercussion of that for the business. So they take the business's lifeblood because they want to feel good about owning a business, and they think that it's time to cash in on the rewards of being a business owner perhaps a little bit too soon.
Okay.
And if we're not financially literate, you know, we're just going to keep making mistakes like that and wondering why things aren't changing. But a great accountant should pull you into line, first of all, with spending like that. But also, they want you to be financially literate. So coming into the end of a financial year in Australia, for instance, and right now, 2 or 3 months out from the end of your financial year, wherever in the world you are listening to this, your accountant should be starting to tax plan with you. They should be asking you some tax planning questions, and they should be talking to you about, okay, this is where it looks like you're going to finish for company tax for this year, or partnership tax, or your personal income tax. We need to look at what our deductions are. We need to look at if it's feasible for you to purchase any capital equipment for the deductions that we might be able to get, or whether it's actually not viable. All of that stuff should start well ahead of the end of the financial year, so that you don't get to June 30, like it is here in Australia, the end of the financial year, and your accountant says to you, oh, we don't have enough deductions. Go and buy a car on finance. And you can't, in most cases, get that done in a day.
Yeah.
You know, so...
especially in this climate.
Yeah, and a great accountant is often going to be preaching the same message that we do with our financial structure that we teach to our clients, in that we should be allocating money every week to put aside for your company tax or your partnership tax and your personal tax and the team's pay-as-you-go tax and superannuation. All of those things should be accounted for weekly, if not fortnightly, and that money doesn't get touched. We should be putting money into a separate account every week for, in this industry, our parts, so that when we get to the end of the month to pay all our accounts, the money's there. We're not looking for it. An accountant that is not talking to you about these things, is not talking to you about where you're sitting with your pricing and your margins and your profit, they're not the accountant for you. And if they only want to talk to you at tax time, when it's time to get your signature on a piece of paper, get rid of them now. The end of a financial year is actually the best time to go and find a new accountant, because they can stop you from, you know, having another set of financials lodged with the tax office. That means you've got a massive tax debt. They can, you know, review the previous couple of years to see if there's anything that can be done there. And if you're on tax plans with the government because you're behind with your taxes and your accountant isn't talking to you about how to overcome that effectively, then that's another indicator that you're with the wrong accountant. And we've had businesses that are turning over $2, $3, $4 million annually who are on tax plans because their accountant did not pick up that they were headed for shortfalls, weren't advising the owners that you can't keep taking this much money out of the business and expect that you're going to have the money at the end of the year to pay your tax liabilities. It's not just something for big business to understand. You know, if you've got 10 or 15 team members, this is for every single auto repair shop owner to understand. It is important who is advising you in the accounting space. They should be proactively wanting to talk to you every month.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And, you know, it probably does feel good to be in a position of power, you know, where you know everything's good and you have visibility across everything, because otherwise it probably affects your mental health on some levels.
Well, it's the stuff that keeps or wakes you up, rather, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, my God, I actually don't know why we don't have any money. I don't see a way out of that situation. Like, if you're talking to a great accountant, monthly is ideal, then you quickly work your way out of those situations and then you don't go back to them, provided you've got discipline and you're coachable. So that's a big part of it, is being open to the information that you didn't know and sticking with it.
That is an awesome JFDI. We hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. And if you've got another 15 minutes before you get to work, listen to another one.
Thanks for listening to Whispering Loudly, the award-winning Workshop Whisperer podcast, as featured by Apple with Rachael Evans, the #1 automotive business coach in the aftermarket. Thanks to titanium sponsor Mechanic Desk and gold sponsor Podium.